Adrian van der Merwe. Where in South Africa are you, Adrian?
I'm staying in Vereniging in Gauteng. Ja, in die Val
Okay.
driehoek.
That's right. And what kind of work are you doing? What is your occupation, if I may ask?
I'm a pharmacist assistant, and I'm working
Okay.
for Dischem. Yeah,
All right.
yeah. I'm now 10 years that I'm pharmacist assistant qualified. Yeah, and before
Okay.
that, I was used to work in the hospitals in the private sector, Mediclinic, in the
Hmm.
ICUs. Yeah,
Okay.
and then I said no, I want to do something else.
Yeah. I'm so glad that we are getting people on board like yourself that is working in the medical industry, um, for the simple reason that you are exposed uh, to the medical world, and you're basically selling to people medication at the end of the day. And
Yes.
yeah, and I guess it makes it also difficult in a certain sense. You know, as a medical professional, you can't really stray beyond the rules of what they tell you to do. You know, you have to sell your medicine and present the medicine as you have been taught, and yet you and I know that medicine is not always the answer.
Yeah, it's true. Very true.
Yeah.
And I've experienced it myself.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, well, like I told you before, I'm now 32 years. I'm type 1 diabetic.
Mm.
Inject me 4 times a day. And then last year I saw your videos on TikTok, the carnivore diet. Like you previously spoke to Nico, and he said, yeah, he was looking at your videos and said, yeah, die maar oukie. And yeah, then I also start to follow it, and then just in December, almost at the same time when um, Nico started, he started on the 27th. I've started on the 3rd of January, and let me quickly tell you, I'm now 32 years type 1 diabetic, very high cholesterol, the bad cholesterol, like 9 to 10, the levels. And the last 12 years, I was struggling with this cholesterol, and I'm on the highest medication, like the milligrams. I'm using the Aspavor 80 milligrams. I'm still using it. And then last year, I asked, no, yeah, last year, when every year on January, I do my yearly blood tests, my kidney functions, liver functions, the sugar levels, and that long-term sugar. And then last year I asked, because it's 10 years that my cholesterol is 9 and above, I asked my house doctor, can she send me to a heart specialist so that we can do some heart sonars and so on, that we can see if there isn't any veins blocked. And she said, well, it's a good idea. So by that time, my cholesterol was 9.5. And then my triglycerides was also not, it was high. And then on the 15th of March last year, I went to see the specialist. He did a heart sonar, and no veins were blocked. And the heart wasn't, of all the, it wasn't, it was still the same, the normal size. And the, um, the, the clipper,
Yeah. The valves, yes.
yes, the valves, it's working 100%. And then we sent the blood results to him as well, and he put me on another cholesterol medication,
Mhm.
a second one. And then he
Yes.
said I must drink it for 6 months, and then I must do a blood test again with the Aspavor 80 milligrams. So in last year, September, I went back, do the blood tests, for the cholesterol, and it was still 9. That extra, then the specialist recommend that I must go to see a professor in Universitas in Johannesburg, because he doesn't know what to do further with the cholesterol that's so high, and it doesn't want to come down. So I found that specialist, and yeah, it was quite a lot of money. So I said, no, I can't afford it now. I will see this year in January. So because that specialist in Universitas is only with, he's specializing in the high cholesterol and the heart. That's his job. So then I start watching you guys on TikTok, and you was talking about the triglycerides and the cholesterol. So on the 3rd of January this year, I started with the carnivore diet, and I went for my yearly test was done on the 5th of February, and the 7th of February I did see my house doctor with all my blood results. So I'm telling you people again, I started on the 3rd of January with the blood test was done on the 5th of February. It is a month further, and by the time I went on the 7th of February to her, I was so excited, and I asked her, what is my cholesterol? And she looked and she said, it's down to 4.
Wow.
So I started on the 3rd, and it came down to 4. And I was struggling for 10 years plus with a cholesterol of 9.510.
Okay.
And in a month's time.
Just to interrupt you there, Adrian, if you talk about that 9 that you are talking about, is it LDL? Was it the LDL?
The bad one.
The bad one. Okay.
The bad
and
cholesterol.
It came down to 4. Excellent. With the carnivore diet.
4.5. Yeah, 4.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. And my triglycerides, it was 100%. I don't know what the exact, but it must be, that I don't know. But yeah, she said your triglycerides is 100%.
Wow.
Yes.
This is excellent.
And when I started with this carnivore diet, my insulin that I use before the carnivore diet, my insulin usage was very high. Like, let me tell you, I was using a long-term insulin in the morning of 80 units plus a short-term insulin Apidra, 24 units. And then at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, at lunchtime, I inject me another 24 units Apidra, the short time working insulin. And then at night, 24 units Apidra again with 100, up to 120 units long time insulin. And since I was starting on a carnivore diet, about 4 weeks down the line, my insulin was coming down more than half. So I inject me, now at this stage, I'm injecting me 10 units, only short time working insulin, 10 units, and in the afternoon 10 units, and at night 10 units, and that's only the short one. And then at night, to carry me through the night, 60 units. That's it.
Well done.
Yeah.
And if you can summarize for us, how much would you say you cut it about 60%, or is it closer to 50%?
No. Yeah, 60 to 65%.
Really?
It came down.
And in a monetary sense, how much money did your insulin cost before, and how much does it cost you now currently per month?
Sure, Cobus. Well, I'm buying the cartridges. It's 6 ampoules. It's like 700 rand. And I was 7 ampoules a month. I'm using maybe 2 a month now. And then my long term.
Yeah, no. Okay, so if you can make a calculation for us, how much plus minus did it cost you before per month, and how much is it costing you now plus minus?
Well, if you work out that 7 ampules of Apidra is like 700 rand, and my the 10 ml vials of the long time insulin works out like 300 to 400 rand per 10 ml vial, and I used to get 4 a month, and 7 of that you can work is about 3,000, and it's about now I'm
3,000.
yeah about 3,000 because my insulin usage was very high, very
Okay.
high.
And how much are you spending now, would you say?
Uh, Well, about 700. Yeah,
Wow. So you are
yeah.
saving 2,300 rand per month because of the carnivore diet.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's why that's why you were able to buy that bike
The lack
that
of
you are
place.
um,
Oh, yeah.
exercising bike. Adrian bought the
Yes.
exercising bike.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Let me show you guys. Yeah. Here is my friend.
That's wonderful. How's
I
it going
say
with the exercising, Adrian?
very good. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so glad.
Cobus, you can say that bicycle, and I said it for 15 kilometers. 15. So every morning or every day I cycle 15 kilometers, but there's programs, so you get your one block and a second block. So as you go along, it will get much difficult. But I also keep my heart rate above 90.
Mm.
It shows you all that on the because I want the heart rate to you must work and so that the body can take the fat because my body was now taking my fat to um, to get energy
Mm. Mm.
because we're not most using any sugars and rice and
Yeah,
bread and
start.
stuff. So
Yeah.
our bodies, starch. So our bodies is taking the fat for energy. So
Mm.
I'm not just sitting there and cycle if it's Sunday. No, I'm cycling if it's Monday.
That's great.
yeah,
I must give you a compliment. You look very well. You look energetic, and
yeah,
yeah. And would you say since you started to exercise, do you feel better since you started to exercise on the bike?
much better, much better.
Okay.
You know, must I contact you and say, yeah, well, my journey, let's go back a bit. My journey started on the 3rd of January up till March, and I
Mm.
lost 15 kilos.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, from end of March up till now, I even spoke to Niku about this, and he also recommend you must do exercise. And but I and then in the that's why I'm saying from January till March I was losing 15 kilos, but now from March up till say a month ago or 3 to 4 weeks ago I hit this wall, nothing, um not even a gram, nothing. I stayed on 115. And then all of a sudden, I start to pick up weight. So I did gain another 3 kilos, but So now I'm on the exercising. So we will see how it
Mm.
goes. Like
Mm.
I told you, I'm gonna do it for 6 weeks, and then I know what's my current weight, and then I will see. I was about now 4 weeks left. Then I will let you know where is my
Mm.
weight. Is it if it's coming down? Yeah.
Yes,
So
excellent. Adrian, yes, and then, like I said in the previous videos in the last few days, I said we are going to be honest here, and we're going to talk about the challenges that people experience. Like, for instance, the guy that did a coaching session with in New York via Zoom. Um, he's 3.5 years on the carnivore diet. He's type 2 diabetic. He reversed his diabetes, but for the last 3.5 years, he's been losing the same 10 pounds, you know, lose it and then he gain it back and so forth. With other words, that
Yeah.
was his challenge, and like he told me in the end, you can't say I'm not fat adapted. It's 3.5 years. You know, after 3.5 years, you're supposed to be fat adapted. What is wrong? So I gave him a few tips that I've picked up in the last month or so. And of course, you know about the videos I've tagged you in it about
Yes.
excess salt. And just for if somebody see this video and they did not watch the other video, I'm not going to go through the whole speech, but just to mention this, it's video number 12 on my blog, and where Dr. Perlmutter say within 5 days of eating a diet with too much salt, you can become insulin resistant. Does not matter if you are low carb. If you are eating low carb, yes, it's good, and we are, we're trying to reverse insulin resistance with a low carbohydrate diet or a zero carbohydrate diet. But remember, it's not the only thing that can make you insulin resistant. As in that videos that I made, there are two things that I pointed out to the guy in New York. And the first thing is the excess salt that you should be mindful of. And just to finish on the topic of the salt, Dr. Perlmutter in video number 12 say that you actually, if you eat a very low salt diet, you can actually stimulate the mitochondria neurogenesis. With other words, you basically stimulate your body's cells to produce more mitochondria. Mitochondria is, of course, the energy source of the cells, which means you speed up your metabolism. So what excess salt does, and I just want to clarify it a bit, is that it actually triggers the survival mechanism in your body, and it's called the polyol pathway. So glucose becomes fructose, and then it stores it into fat. And you can actually, the body thinks it's in a starvation, you think it's famine, and then you can't lose weight. So it does three things. The body refuses to burn fat, the body stores fat, and it down-regulates. The third thing is it down-regulates metabolic function, which is a nightmare because you want to lose body fat in certain cases. The other thing, the second thing that I mentioned to him is uric acid, and I actually wanted to question you about that. Do you know what your acidity levels are in your body, Adrian?
No, not at all. Nothing. No.
Okay. So anybody that's listening in on this video, it might be a good idea to check if you struggle with weight loss, if you have a challenge of going in a weight loss stall, it might be the too high salt, and then it might also be high uric acid levels. Now, I don't want to, I don't want to go into too much detail about that. Otherwise, this video is going to be too long, and this is not the purpose of this video. This video is about Adrian tonight. But what I wanted to just quickly point out is high acid levels in your body, high acidity, also trigger the very same mechanism that I've described earlier on, the polyol pathway, which means your body produce fructose from glucose. And even as carnivores, Adrian, our body can produce fructose from glucose, even if you don't eat fructose, even if you don't eat no fruit or any. Yes, so that is the polyol pathway, and it happens in the liver, and it's a very important mechanism, but only in times of starvation, in times of famine. So we have to look at those things. I've got videos about that. It's video number Q38, part C and D, on my frequently asked question playlist. I'm not going to elaborate anymore on that. So if I may make a suggestion to anyone that is interested in that, check your acidity levels, go and watch video Q38 and video number 12 on my blog, where Dr. Perlmutter talks about that. You can carry on, Adrian. Sorry to interrupt.
No. No. Yeah, and then I let you know there was quite a while that I struggled to get some nice fatty meat, and so I tried to get in that fat. And then all of a sudden I see, but I inject my same insulin, but the sugar is now going above 7, 8. It will go up till maybe 10. But I thought, you know most how the body is.
Mm.
And it was about 2 to 3 weeks. I couldn't get really fatty meat. It
Mm.
was I because we must you can't eat also not too much fat.
Mm.
But yeah, and then I realized, but yo, so I did took my insulin a bit up, like to 12 units, 14 units, just to get that, because I like my sugar must stay under 7. Well, Cobus, and then the other thing is, I'm now 32 years diabetic. I just quickly want to tell you guys, and even now in January, when I went to the doctor, my kidney functions is 100%, liver
Mm.
is 100%. My long-term sugar is that if they draw blood, it's over 3 months. It's under 7, and if you look at the South African something, diabetics, that long-term sugar must be under 7. It is that is very important for you, for your, yeah, well, for your liver and for your kidneys and for your eyes and that stuff. And then we've got a doctor here in Three Rivers, um, with the eyes. So I also go every year with that, and you've got 5 machines. So he's doing the pressure in the eye. You've got jy het laag, verskillende
Mm.
laag,
Yes. The
in
levels,
your
yes.
oog.
Yes.
Yeah.
Layers,
So
different layers in
they
your eyes. Yes. Yeah.
does a different layers in the eyes, and he's checking that, and he's checking behind the eyes. He's checking the veins. And you know what?
Mm.
I was in March with him. Well, I go every year, and every year he still says the same thing to me. He says, you know, Adrian, if I must call one of my other colleagues, because he put it there on the TV screen, and then he says, well, for 32 years, and I must ask them to assess my eyes, they will
Mm.
not mention a thing of diabetic eyes.
Mm.
Never.
Mm.
So that's what I just want the people to know, how good controlled my diabetes are. And so yeah, and I try my very best, but since on the carnivore diet, yeah, before this carnivore diet, my sugar was also about 10, 11, 14 some days, and then I struggled to get it under 7, because that is my things. I want my sugar under 7, and
Mm.
since I'm used to start with the carnivore diet, it's under 7. And then
Well
there
done.
was a stage I told people, yeah, just testing my sugar once a day. And people attacked me and said, yeah, but how can you do that? The thing is, when I started on a carnivore diet, I also checked my sugar 2 to 3 times a day. I did. And then after 6 weeks, I see, but because I eat the same in the morning, same at lunch, and same at dinner. So, and I know so in the mornings, I like to test my sugar in the mornings when I wake up. And then if I see my sugar is under 7, I'm happy. And then I know, okay, because I know when I eat this, I must inject me that much. If I'm going to eat that, so then people ask, but it's impossible. It's not impossible, Cobus. Really.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
said, before the carnivore diet, my sugar was also up and down, up and down. It was, but since on a carnivore diet, I promise you, it's a straight line.
Mm.
And yeah, if you get sick, our diabetics, if you get sick, some flu or there's infection somewhere, your sugar goes up. That's how a diabetic's body is working. And yeah, and then what I do, I adjust my insulin myself. But I mean, 32 years, I know exactly what to do. And I mean, there was really a time, like I told you guys, I struggled. I struggle. But since on the carnivore diet, no, I'm
Mm.
really, I'm
Mm.
blessed. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
going
Wonderful.
And even now, I'm 32 years diabetic. My feet under, I don't have, now if I must kick it against this table, I went through the roof because I still got all my nerve endings. And I don't get that, like
Neuropathy.
a lot of diabetics at night, their feet feel warm underneath.
Mm.
I'm fine, really. I'm not just saying this stuff.
Yes,
Really,
that is
I'm
that
fine.
is excellent, Adrian.
Yeah,
And that's what I always say. You can argue with a person, but nobody knows your body like yourself. You are living with your condition. You know how good you feel right now. And Brett Lloyd always talk about that. People say to Brett Lloyd, "But you are going to die." But he feel the best that he's felt in his whole life. Brett Lloyd, for instance, reversed his depression with the carnivore diet. Now, I'm not
yeah,
advising people to stop their medications. What I say is listen to what Adrian is saying and discuss it with your doctor. Check out the frequently asked question playlist. Check out the testimonial playlist on my YouTube channel. If I think of Adrian, the other Adrian that's also type 1 diabetic, his goals were different to yours. He actually wanted to gain weight and he managed that. But he also more than halved his insulin that he's using as a type 1 diabetic. Just if somebody is listening in and they don't understand what is a type 1 diabetic and what is a type 2 diabetic, type 1 diabetes, type 1 diabetics can't reverse their diabetes. You can't reverse it because the pancreas is not working anymore. But type 2 diabetes can be 100% reversed. I've got several videos of that on my blog and on my YouTube channel. Just check it out. Video Q2, for instance, how to reverse type 2 diabetes. Adrian, before I forget, there's two other things that I just want to add onto the weight loss stall for people, and that is the thyroid. People should do a complete thyroid panel. And when they do the complete thyroid panel or the hormonal panel, what Amy Berger say in video number 123 is doctors normally check for T4 and the thyroid stimulating hormone, but they don't check for T3. And T3, the thyroid produces a very little amount of T3, but T3 is the most potent form of thyroid hormone, but it's actually produced elsewhere in the body. But the body uses T4. Now, what happens is doctors miss the point. They only check for T4 and thyroid stimulating hormone, which is actually produced in the pituitary gland. And if those levels are fine, they say, no, your thyroid is fine, you don't have a problem. And yet you still might feel like crap. You still may be losing hair. You still may be lethargic. You still may be struggling with constipation. You may still be struggling with weight loss, stall, and they don't check for T3. So go and check out video 123. And the last point on weight loss stall is alcohol. Absolutely, I'm more and more convinced that alcohol should not be consumed, apart from the fact that your body will first metabolize it. But other than that, it also triggers the very same mechanism, the polyol pathway, and it triggers the body to convert glucose into fructose. And fructose goes to uric acid, and fructose goes to fat. That's how a fatty liver starts. And again, the whole process of acidity, so it's a vicious circle, and you are being now not only do you have gout, but you have other problems in the body. But that is that video Q38, especially the C and D part on my frequently asked question playlist. Adrian, this is great information, and I'm so glad you brought up the fat that you. I think you mentioned to me that you felt better also after eating more fat. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what I just want to come back now. So, like I said, for 3 weeks I didn't got that fatty meat, and then I see my sugar goes up. It went up a bit, and then I did make a video where I was saying I just came from the butchery and look at my nice fatty meat. And then Cobus, then I saw I got nice fatty meat and the sugar came down again. So and my
Wow.
insulin also did came the insulin use. So somewhere of the
Mm.
fatty meat, and
Yeah.
I can promise you that fat on the meat is also got something to do. I don't know if it absorbs the
Yes.
sugar or the whatever you call it in our
Yes.
diabetics bodies,
Yes.
but
Yes. Yes. Yes.
that good fat is
Yes.
definitely doing something to our bodies, really. And I've
Absolutely.
experienced it myself. I
Yes.
experienced it
Absolutely.
myself.
Yes, that's very true. One must always also realize, Adrian, that we are consuming protein and we are consuming fat. That's the basic things that we are consuming as carnivores. So if you eat too much protein, uh, what will your body do with that too much protein if you have a lack of fat? Because fat, as you said before, your body is running on ketosis at the moment. So if you
Yes,
don't give it, yeah, if you don't give it enough fat, you'll feel lethargic, and then your body will have to produce glucose from the protein. It's by the process of gluconeogenesis, and our bodies are very capable to do that. But there's another thing that you have to be mindful of is that you don't eat too much protein and then not enough fat because of the acidity at the end of the day. And becoming insulin resistant, um, not everybody will experience insulin resistance with acidity, but it's something to really think of, especially concerning weight loss stall. It's very important that we discuss these things because sometimes somebody can be frustrated. You know, like the guy that I've done a coaching session with, he's quite frustrated. He feels that carnivore does not work for him. And maybe it can be the excess salt, maybe it can be the acidity, maybe it can be his thyroid. He's not drinking alcohol at all anymore. But I know people on the carnivore diet who still consume alcohol. And if they are struggling with weight loss, it's something that have to go. And as I said, adding more fat, or actually what you said, adding more fat can be beneficial, of course, if you can tolerate it, but it can absolutely help you to be quicker in ketosis, and it can absolutely help you to push down insulin resistance. That is the thing. Yeah.
yes, for sure.
Yes. And another thing, what I actually learned tonight, because I always do a little bit of research before I interview somebody, and I did not really, of course, it's quite possible, but I did not know that type 1 diabetics can become insulin resistant as well. I did not know it.
Yeah,
So type 1 diabetics can become insulin resistant. And, you know, one thing that there's actually two things that for type 1 diabetics is if they don't exercise, it actually works against them because then they become more insulin resistant. So it's a lack of physical activity. And the other one is excess body fat, those two things.
yes.
So that is, you have to, or somebody has to address those things. And it's very interesting that you talked about the glucose and the exercise as well. And as I always say, when one is exercising, it's the only time that your muscles don't require insulin to utilize glucose. Of course, we look at insulin as the key that opened the cell for the glucose to enter. But when one is exercising, there's a pathway that your body don't require insulin to get the glucose in, which means it works against insulin resistance. So, in other
Yeah.
words, if you exercise, you make it better. And another thing that I want to mention, when you were talking about the exercising, that is actually one of the things that Dr. Paul Mutter say, what you can do to flip this whole story around about the survival mechanism, about the polyol pathway. You can actually flip the whole thing over, if you start to exercise and if you start to get your acidity levels down, you can actually get the body to speed up the metabolism, especially if you cut down on salt. If you are eating too much salt, like I said, you will be eating very little salt, so you will be making more mitochondria, and then the body will flip the mechanism and it will stimulate a different kind of enzyme, and that will mean that the body will now burn fat, and it will not store the fat, but it will actually step up the metabolic process. So you will start to have more energy, so this is the flip side. But anyway, that is video number 12. I don't want to elaborate too much about that because I can talk too much.
Yeah, and then also a few months back, I start to ask you why I went down 15 kilos in 3 months, and then you said I must go and do also my testosterone levels, and I did that. And
Yes.
while I was sitting there in the doctor's room, she asked me, "How are you standing up? Because your testosterone levels there's nothing. It's down,
Yes.
down, down." So I'm currently using Sustanon. I'm on Sustanon. She put me on Sustanon, and I'm injecting it every 3 weeks because that is how the Sustanon is working. So yeah, and I think also since now my testosterone levels are better, I'm feeling great. Yeah. And yeah, I also went for the thyroid test, but like you said, of the T3, I don't know if she did, but because I told her, I asked my doctor, say, listen, I'm on this, I'm on this diet, and my weight was coming down very good, and now it's standing still. So we recommended to do my thyroid test and then the testosterone levels, and then we see. Well, the thyroid, I don't know if they did the T3, I can't say, but she said the thyroid is normal because I did that in February as well. So in March, I did all the thyroid tests again with the testosterone levels, and mine was, there was nothing. So like I said, I'm on this, also about now 2 months, maybe a little bit longer than 2 months that I'm on the testosterone injections every 3 weeks. Yeah, and I'm feeling great.
I'm so glad, man. All right. So, Adrian, if you can give some advice to people that maybe is diabetic, maybe type 1 diabetic, what advice would you give them to start the carnivore diet? What kind of tips would you give them if you can summarize for us?
Well, Cobus, like Nico also said that time, when you start, the first month I struggled to get the right meats and the right, because I didn't know what to eat and how to eat, but as time goes on, we learn, and you learn. Okay, this works for me. That is working for me. This is not working for me. You just can't go today I'm start with it, because I watch your videos and I watch Nico's videos, and then I was starting to make my own food and say, but no, I can't do this and I can't do that. But yeah, it's a thing that you must walk. It's not you say today I'm gonna start and you think no, but I will never go back. No. And the other thing is, I'm not I was never a big meat eater. I used to love my vegetables and my salads and stuff, and I just put that aside, and I started with this meat, the carnivore diet, and I love it. And I can promise you, there's of my family members that says no, I won't do it. I can't do it. I love my salads, but yeah, Cobus, no, especially people with diabetes, I would recommend it anytime. And you know what? and I see you used to get people that, yeah, but it is expensive and stuff. It's not. I also made a video that I showed people. I shop around like you do. I shop around, and yeah, and well, I can really say my meat works out so 2,500 rand a month, and
Wow.
that's with my eggs. Yeah, and you see, Mos, I eat lekker, jong. Pork belly and
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
no, and that's the thing. You buy a big piece of pork belly, but then I cut it into pieces. So right
Mm.
for today, tomorrow, and the pork belly got a lot of fat on, and I like it. Yeah. So, but
Yes.
I won't eat it every day. But yeah, there's
Yes.
sometimes
And
that I say, okay.
do you do well on pork meat? Are you feeling
Um,
well on pork meat?
There was a time that I eat a lot of pork, and then that's when the weight started to gain. And then I also, must Google, and I went on and I see they say pork fat is not that good for you. Well, I don't know, and that's why I went over to beef. I only eat beef meat, yeah, with
Mm.
fat on. I
Yes.
call
Yes.
it. I don't know what, but really I don't know the part of that. But they used to make biltong of that meat. So it's go like a C4, C5 grade, and that's the kind of meat I'm looking. And well, the last 2 weeks I did get some, but now this week I'm a bit struggling. But then I will go over to pork just to get that, because it got quite a nice piece of fat on, but not too much. When I started, that's what I'm saying, and I mentioned that to you. When I started with this diet, I was eating pork every day with that big fat on, and yeah, and then
Mm.
no, I stopped it that a bit.
Mm.
But
Mm.
yeah, I went over to beef. Yeah, but
Yes.
once a week, well, pork belly. That's normally I treat myself on Sundays with that. A nice piece,
Mm.
say 400 grams. Yeah, and even the bacon, like you said, bacon doesn't do much. It's also more a processed kind of meat. There is people that eats it every day, but I also bring it down because I want to lose weight. So that's
Mm.
why
Mm.
only on Saturdays or Sundays I will make a whole packet of bacon with 3 to 4 eggs, and that's my breakfast. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what
Excellent.
I'm saying. You must not see for yourself what's working for you, and what you must not experiment. You do some experiments with the food and say, "Yo, I eat for a week this, or
Mm.
14 days, and that's how my weight goes, or this is how my sugar looks if you're a diabetic, and this is."
Mm.
So yeah, it's quite. It's not just go on and you eat and no,
Yes.
no.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
Adrian, I'm so glad that we had this conversation, and absolutely want to do a follow up with you in the future. And
Yes.
I'm so grateful, because you are type 1 diabetic. It's not every day that you can interview a type 1 diabetic that's working in the medical industry and he's doing the carnivore diet, and he's a great person. And I do appreciate your friendship. And
That's
yeah,
fine.
you mean so much to the community. You don't realize it, but this video is going to save people's lives. Type 1 or type 2 diabetics, or type 1 or type 2 diabetes can be detrimental if you don't control it. And type 2, we can absolutely reverse, but type 1, we can absolutely make it better. And you and other Adrian is great examples of that. And what can they say? What can people say? I, I always tell the story that I've recently met a lady that is a professional nurse, and she's qualified. She did an advanced course in diabetes, so she's treating diabetic patients. And the sad story is her own husband passed away from diabetic complications. He lost a limb, he lost his leg, his kidneys failed, and
Yeah.
he died from atherosclerosis. So I asked her, "What do you give diabetics to eat?" And she said, "A lot of fiber, a lot of fruit, and a lot of vegetables." And I said to her, then I explained myself and I say, here's my business card, here's my website, here's the interviews, go to my YouTube channel, look at the testimonials where I interviewed people who reversed their type 2 diabetes. And at that stage, Adrian, type 1 diabetic, who more than halved his insulin use on type 1 with the carnivore diet. What can she say? You know, because the next thing she said, though, but all type 2 diabetics eventually become type 1 diabetics. And I say, no, not if you reverse type 2 diabetes, you know?
Yes.
I'm so excited for this discussion. And, you know, so many other medical professionals will see this interview and they will have to have an opinion about it, because at the end of the day, there will be an avalanche of evidence and testimonies of people that say, listen, my type 1 diabetes is so much better. You know, and like I always say, diabetes, it begins with the brain. It destroys the brain. You know, it destroys the kidneys. It destroys the heart. It destroys the extremities. Apart from all the other things, you know, like, for instance, insulin resistance causes hypertension, which again destroys the kidneys and the heart and the brain with a stroke, you know. And these things, as you know, Adrian, we are reversing insulin resistance with the carnivore diet. We are reversing hypertension with the carnivore diet. We've got videos about that. You know, check the frequently asked question playlist and the testimonial playlist where people testify, listen, I've stopped my medication together with my doctor by doing the carnivore diet. You know, what can they say? You know?
And Cobus, I just want to mention something to you as well. Before I started on the carnivore diet, I did mention it a while ago to you. My house doctor, well, I'm about 20 years with her, and the thing is with her, she said to me, when I wake up in the morning, my sugar must be under 6. She want me, so that's where we adjusted the sugar. So if I stand up, it's like 4.55, but we did try our best to get it under 6. But there's some, when before the carnivore diet, I will stand up, my sugar is, let's say 6. Then I used to buy the wheat picks, but you get the wheat picks with, they put on the box low sugar or no sugar or whatever. Cobus, I promise you, my sugar 5, I inject my units, and 2 hours, because then after 2 hours you can, most diabetics do that to test the sugar again. Then my sugar levels of those wheat picks for 15 went up to 15. And then she said, okay, but then I must try to eat raw oats, but not the jungle oats. Some the checkers make. And I did that. The same. I stand up with sugar. It's 5, 6. I eat my bucket of oats. 14, 13. And then I must increase the dosage of my insulin so that we can get it under 10. And yeah, so this wheat picks and special K, and it's not good. Well, not for me, it was not good, because I've got the proof. And I told you guys now, if I eat 2 wheat picks and it's no sugar or less sugar, it went up to 14. And to increase your insulin, it's also not good. You can't do the one thing to get the other thing right. It doesn't work like that. Yeah, so yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Carnivore diet, for me, it's working. And Cobus, I'm going to do my tests in next year again, and then I will ask her, I want copies, and then we can have a video, and we can say, this is what my sugar is now, the long term, this is my cholesterol, this is this, and then, you know, I like to put the proof in the pudding.
Absolutely, Adrian.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
Adrian,
we're gonna.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so grateful for that. And what you said about insulin as a very it's a very important hormone in the body, and insulin is good, but too much insulin is not good. And this is the mistake that many doctors do. is they are lazy. My doctors, the ones on my webpage, call out the doctors who they say are lazy. And what the lazy doctors do is they just prescribe more insulin because that is the thing to do. And what happens is even type 2 diabetics, they are starting to give type 2 diabetics insulin injections because they are too lazy to educate them on the carnivore diet or a low carbohydrate diet and reversing the problem. You know, so, and, you know,
But Cobus,
there's so many things.
It's not just insulin. I mean, I see the scripts that I get every day. The patient, they get glucophages, and then there's a lot of new tablets on the market to help so that you can urinate out the excessive sugar in your body. Diglucide, glucovans, there's all this new medication that came now the last year or two on the market, and they just adding and adding. And because of new medication, the medical doesn't pay for it. And I'm telling you, a box of glucovans and those new medications like 500 plus, and that patient must pay it because we don't get your sugar down. Here's a new thing on the market. It works. It really does. But you can't go every year back to your doctor and he adds and adds and adds. And that, like I said, they just keep on adding, like you also said.
Yes, and the thing, Adrian, what people often tell me is they tell me I'm not a diabetic. With other words, they mean their blood sugar is in the normal range. Yes, your blood sugar is in the normal range, but your insulin is through the roof. And what insulin, chronic hyperinsulinemia does, with other words, insulin resistance, it upregulates the salt retention on your kidneys, and now you have hypertension, you have high blood pressure, and also you have high uric acid levels because the kidneys upregulates with the too much insulin. It upregulates the uric acid retention, and now you have either gout or you stimulate the whole program again that I've mentioned, the polyol pathway, and now you become obese. And as you know, if you are obese, your mortality risk and the risk for heart disease is through the roof. We often talk about that, about the measurement around the belly, over the belly with a measuring tape divided by your height. It should be 0.5. If it's more than that, it's called metabolic syndrome. High triglyceride levels that you talked about, you know, and hypertension we talked about. All these factors are things that kill people on a daily basis with heart disease. Just to mention one thing, never mind all the other problems like the cancer link with high uric acid in the body, dementia, you know, Alzheimer's. You know, I've got statistics here just to mention a few. A 32% increased risk of dying from stroke if you have higher uric acid levels. If you have higher uric acid levels, you know, but nobody talks about that because my blood sugar is normal. My blood sugar is normal, but what is your uric acid levels? You know, stroke is a very real risk on a daily basis for many people. And we can reverse insulin resistance, which is the main culprit for all of these things. Basically, it's all connected. It's all connected, and it's very good that we have this discussion. And Adrian, I'm so thankful for this interview. I think we must start to wrap it up. Yeah. And yeah, I'm so grateful that you talked to us, and it was such a privilege. And thank you for the videos that you are making. Please continue to make the videos on TikTok, because I always say that, you know, people will identify with certain people. Some people don't identify with me, and they identify with you. And if you tell your story in the simplest way, you are saving somebody else's life. And I always tell people, it's if you don't tell your story, you're actually a little bit selfish in a way. You know, there's somebody out there that's going to be saved in their health by your testimony. It's as simple as that. So thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else that you wanted to add on, or? say?
No, not really. But yeah, Cobus, like, but I want us to do again an interview. It was very nice to talk. Yes, and yeah, that we can get the knowledge outside. And I really hope people. That's the other thing. People can test diabetes. I was there a few years ago. I can stand up. My sugar is nice. I eat chocolates. I also just a human being, and on the machine it shows, oh, your sugar is so nice and stuff, but then you're going to do that long-term sugar, that 3 month sugar, and it goes over 7 and 8. That is where the problem is going to start. It attacks your kidneys, your heart, like you said, Nana, the brain. And yeah, Cobus, it's true. People, they will say, yeah, but look, my sugar is 7 and or 8. Yeah, but over that long time period, when you do your 3 months sugar, it is 8, 9, and 10. I mean, mine was at the time, was it 8? And I said, no, I'm not going to allow this. I must, and like I said, I was January there and it was under 7, because the normal sugar is 6.5. And I think next year I want to put my goal to get it 5. So yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and I will do it.
Adrian, thank you so much, and I do appreciate your friendship, and thank you for this interview. And yes, we'll talk again.
Yes, for sure.
Thanks,
okay,
man.
Cobus,
Have a great evening.
All right.
Thank you, Adrian. Bye-bye.